I will start, I suppose, in order, which according to the Prakim, so we'll start with Shir Ma'alot Esainai. We won't say Lam Natseach Mizmor David Yom Chashem Yom Tzara because it's Rosh Chodesh. We usually leave that out on Rosh Chodesh. So if you repeat with me, Shir Ma'alot Esainai Le'arei Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Ezri Me'im Adonai Yosei Shamayim V'aretz. Al Yitzei Lamod Raglecha Al Yonum Shamerecha. Hinei Lo Yonum V'lo Yishan Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shamerecha, Adonai Tzilecha Al Yad Yeminecha. Yom HaShemesh Lo Yakeka V'Yareach Baloilo. Adonai Yishmarecha Mikol Ra Yishmor Es Nafshecha. Adonai Yishmor Tzeisecha Voecha Me'ata V'Yadolah. Shir HaMa'alos B'Ma'amakim Kirasicha Adonai. Adonai Shina B'Koliti Enoznecha Kashuvos L'Kol Tachanai. Im avonos tishmor yo Adonai miyamod. Ki imecha haslicha leman tivareh. Ki vitzi Adonai ki v'sanafshi v'lidvaro hacholti. Nafshi la'Adonai mishomerim baboker shomerim laboker. Yachel Yisrael el Adonai ki im Adonai hachesed beharbe imo fidus. Go Yiftes Yisrael mikol avonosav. Maskil leDavid beYosef b'meoros v'ila. Koli el Adonai ezah, koli el Adonai ezchanan. Eshpoch lefanav sichi, tzarasi lefanav agid. B'yisatei folai ruchi v'ato yadata nesivasi baruch zuah halech tamenu fachli. Habeit yamin rei ve'en li makir avad manos mimeni ein doresh lenafshi. Za'akti elecha Adonai amarti ata machsi chelki be'eretz hachayim. Hakshiva rinasi kidalo simiyad hatzilene merodefai ki yametzu mimeni. Hotzia mi maskir nafshi lehodos eshemecha v'yachtir tzadikim ki sigmol alay. Achenu kol beis Yisrael hanesurim b'tzorah v'shivi ha'om dim bein bayama bein bayim b'shah ha'makom yirachem aleim v'yotziei mitzorah lebracha me'efela l'ram mishibud l'geulah hashta b'agalav zman kariv v'nomar amen. I'm just going to say for just a minute or two a quick thought. We're here to, in challenging times, the Parshat HaShavua this week, with looking forward to, begins with Hashem saying to Moshe, Boel Paro, to come to Paro, and because he wants Paro to pay attention. Laman Shiti, that he should pay attention to the otot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing within him. Of course, that's the big point of all the makot that were found in Mitzrayim. After all, the question one could ask is, why were 10 makot necessary? HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have started with makot bechorot. He could have started with all the Egyptians dropping dead. What was the point? The point was amongst, besides the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show Laman Teidaki en kamoni b'chol haaretz, Laman Teidaki ani Hashem b'kerev haaretz, Laman Teidu, many things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to show about his power. He wanted Paro to accept and to understand what was going on, and to realize what was going on. And in fact, last week when we read several times in Parshat Vayera that Paro, for instance, after Makat Arov, I think, it says, Vayifen Paro vayavoel beito. Paro, after Moshe got rid of the Makkah, Paro went home, and Velo Shat Libo Gam Lazot, he didn't pay attention. Right? He didn't pay attention. And he, put his feet up on the couch when he got home, read the newspaper, he's happy, it's over, finished, I don't have to pay attention. And that's, I think, one of the main points of the Makkah, and something that we can learn about, which is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to pay attention. And that any kind of event that happens in the world, when they happen, we can either look at them, we can be impressed by them, but when they're finished, when that inspiring event, either in a positive sense or in a negative sense, finishes, we can either say, okay, that's finished, what's next? What am I going to look at today? Who's going to be playing in the playoffs? You know, what's interesting in the Super Bowl coming up? And forget about the important things that are happening. Or one can pay attention, b'shat libo, and to put it into one's heart. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted that we should put it into his heart. Tonight we're gathered here to look at for inspiration in troubling times, because we all want to pay attention. We know that everything that's happening in the world today, and all the difficult things that we're going through, and the really frightening things that are happening in Eretz Yisrael, where people are really afraid to walk on the streets. You never know when a knife can come out. And let's face it, not just in Eretz Yisrael, around the world. It's happened here in Manhattan, it's happened all over. And it's just an intensification of what's been going on for such a long time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending us signs, and he's looking for us to pay attention. And we have the great zechut that all of you are here tonight to hear a very, very well-known speaker. We're very grateful to the Chazaq organization for bringing them to us. We're grateful to all of you for coming, and we look forward to inspiration so that we can pay attention in troubled times. We look forward to hearing words of wisdom from Rav Menashe.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Oppenheimer. Chazaq Baruch. It should be mentioned that right over here in this ballroom, there is a brand new minyan. I shouldn't say brand new, it's Baruch Hashem over a year. Very successful congregation, Tiferet Shalom, who's a co-sponsor of tonight's amazing event. The Sephardic minyan of the Youngers of Forest Hills. So Chazaq Baruch to Tiferet Shalom. They have daily minyanim here for Shacharit, Monday to Friday at 7:30 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Mincha on Fridays in the Wagner basement right upstairs, and Shabbat morning right over here at 8:30 a.m. in the ballroom, followed by a very big kiddush. Whoever in the Forest Hills area, the city, if you happen to visit, please, you're more than welcome. You're always welcome. And this is the first of many, many other great, inspiring lectures in the community. So we want to thank all the sponsors. There are many other Chazaq events and programs going on in the community. Tomorrow night, Youngers of Jamaica States. This Sunday, a week from tonight, with Rabbi Mechanic Bet Gabriel. And Rabbi Yisach, our friend, is going to be coming in very soon. You'll see the flyers, you'll see the event, you'll get the email list passed around. Visit us online at chazaq.org, chazaq.org. At this time, it's my honor and privilege and, what other word is there? Kavod, to call upon our Rav for the family. We've been in the shul for many, many years back. Rav Menashe, loud round of applause, please.
I wasn't born here, so I can never run for president, but looking at all these cameras, I'm beginning to feel what it's like. Do you have my good side? Yes? Good, good. Well,
Which one, Rabbi?
I'm not sure. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I want you to know, I want to thank all of you for being here, coming out in great numbers on a cold and windy night. I'm glad that rain stopped. And I want to tell you, it's really a pleasure for me to be here, because this was where it all began. This is home for me. And I want to first of all thank the Meirov brothers for organizing this, for Chazaq, for Tiferet Shalom. Shlomo's doing an amazing job building up this wonderful minyan over here. And I want to thank Rabbi Oppenheimer for the introduction and the wonderful words. And actually, one of my daughters and Rabbi Oppenheimer's daughter were very, very close. She's living in Israel now. That's right. So it's a pleasure to be here. I want you to know, many years ago, quite often I prayed in the Young Israel of Forest Hills. It was very convenient. I was living around the corner on Clyde. And then, you know, things moved on. But as a matter of fact, the last time I was in this ballroom was for my son's bar mitzvah. It was a long, long time ago now, but that's where it was, right here. So it's truly a wonderful feeling. And so here we are today, where we're all gathered here to hear a few words of Torah. And for me, it's very, very uplifting to be able to be with you and to speak and to, you know, what can I tell you? Hopefully learn something as we go along and have a wonderful evening together. So I want to reiterate that this evening, as it says on the flyer, is dedicated in loving memory of Rabbanit Ruth Bat Ahuba and Aharon ben Esther. I want you to know these are two wonderful souls. They passed away within about a month of each other. And the world is definitely worse off without each of them. Without them, the two of them, definitely it's not what it was before. But we have to continue their legacy. We have to do what is important, was important for them, what they represented. They were very, very fine people. In any case, so tonight is part of that, keeping their legacy alive and doing Ilui Neshama for them. With your permission, I would also like to make it for the Refuah Shalima of Marat Immi, Wateret Roshi, my mother, Rahel Bat Simcha Gurjia, who is not well as we speak. The title of this lecture, as we heard, is Our Lifeline, Solutions for Trying Times. There's no question that we do seem to be going through difficult times, not just here, but in the world. Not, in fact, just the Jewish people, but the entire world. There is a lot of good. There's no question there is a lot of good going on, and we have to look for it. It's important to see the good that is going on in the world. But there are a lot of difficulties on different levels. One obvious level that was alluded to just now is that of terror. And the whole world is subjected to it. You could be anywhere in the world. It used to be, it was the exclusive domain of the land of Israel. And then it spread. Of course, 9/11 hit America, and then everything changed. Now you can go to Paris, you can go to London, you can go anywhere. You don't know if you can walk the streets safely. Certainly it applies constantly in the land of Israel. Another battle that we're facing in trying times is the mores of the world. The morality of the world is not what it is supposed to be. And it's not just in one place anymore. It's the entire world. The morality of the world has gone downhill. And here we are, the Jewish people, trying to live like good Jews and have good morals and good everything, good values, and are all around us. We're being told, no, do the opposite, do the opposite. And it's very disconcerting, and it is very, very difficult, because we want to follow the path of purity, and the challenges are greater and greater. And then another level is maybe the financial level. Yes, there are people who are doing very, very well, but overall, it has become more of a struggle. There's no question about it. Many people are finding it difficult to make ends meet. People are finding it hard to get a good job. And there are those, as I say, who have highly paid jobs, but it's not what it was. It used to be a college grad would come out of college and find a good job, and everything would be fine. And there are some. My barber was telling me about his grandson in Harvard, who before he graduated, one of the top corporations in Boston came to him and offered him an amazing job. But that's not the majority. The majority of college grads are having difficulty. They have expectations. They go to college, they think they're going to come out, they're going to get these highly paid jobs, But in fact, when they come out, what they find is that the jobs are very scarce, and what they're being offered is really not paying them what they thought it would be paying them. It's like a story about a college grad who's interviewing at a very prestigious corporation. And at the end of the interview, towards the end, the personnel manager says to him, he says, let me ask you, what kind of salary are you looking for? So this college grad with all his expectations says, well, it depends. But something along the lines of $200,000 a year. So the personnel manager says to him, and what does it depend on? He said, well, it depends on the benefits package. So the personnel manager says, well, you get 6 weeks paid leave every year. You get a brand new leased Jaguar every 2 years. You get 100% medical coverage, and all your apartment expenses are paid. And the college grad says, man, are you kidding? He said, yes, but you started it. But you know what? It's not just individuals who are struggling. It's also institutions. I mean, over the last few years, we've been seeing it. Institutions we thought were as solid as the Rock of Gibraltar, they go under. All of a sudden, everybody loses their money. It used to be, if you got your check back from the bank and it was stamped insufficient funds, you knew what it meant. Today, if you get that, you have to call them up and say, do you mean me or do you mean you? The truth is, people are struggling in our generation in all areas, And it's actually quite serious. It is what many doctors call the Prozac generation. Why? Because people just can't deal with it. They can't deal with life. They can't deal with the trials and tribulations, the things they hear on the news, the things they read in the newspapers. Even if they're not directly affected, it affects you. Everything that's going on in the world, we tend to focus on these negative things, and people need a crutch. So when they say a Prozac generation, what it means is they need pills or they need alcohol, they need something as a crutch. Our Torah tells us in different ways what kind of crutch that we should be taking. It says in Mishlei, Lev sameach yetiv geha. And it continues, Veruach neche'ah teyabesh garem. What does this mean? Basically what it says, if you want a crutch, you want a good crutch, you want to know what to take, you need a happy heart. A happy heart is the pill that you should be taking. Because if you're down, if you're broken, if you're depressed, it dries your bones. But you know, a happy heart has to come from within. And it's a little like the chicken and egg situation. Which comes first? Do you have a happy heart because things are going well, and so you can feel happy? Or no, things are not going well, so I make myself happy, and then things start going better. The answer is we have the ability to affect how we feel despite external factors. My dear mother, you say, God, I can't take the problems. I give them to you. Your shoulders are much broader than mine. Please, you carry them. And when you want me to know what to do, let me know in whatever way you do, because God has many ways of letting us know what it is we should be doing. She would also quote Tehillim. She would say, Hashlecha Lashem Yehabacha, Vehu Yechalkelecha. Cast your burdens onto God. Say, God, here, they're yours. I can't take them. And He will be the one to sustain you. So God, therefore, has to be very much part of our lives. We can feel we're an island. If you want to feel that, it's not going to work. There's no one to help us, no one to talk to, no one who cares, because if you feel that way, you'll start getting depressed. And it may be surprising, but our rabbis tell us that depression is actually a sign that we don't have faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if we had faith in God, first of all, we have to believe passionately in God. And if we have faith in Him, then we know that everything is for the good, even if we don't comprehend it. The problem is this: we do believe in God, but up to a point. We do believe there's Olam Haba, there's a world to come, but up to a point. We know when a person passes away, he's not just, it's over and, they're buried and that's it. Nothing left. No, we know they're the souls. We know that something lives on. Many of us have seen proof of it in our own lives. We've certainly heard about it, we've read about it, we've learned about it. But we can't see it physically. And when you can't see something physically, that's where the difficulty occurs. You believe that I'm talking to you because you see it. If somebody would tell you that, you would say, I believe it. But if someone else would say, no, he wasn't there, then you wouldn't know what to believe anymore. All right. Very often when I give a lecture, it's amazing. Something happens just before it, or somebody tells me something that is very relevant to the lecture. There's no such thing as coincidence in the Jewish religion. But let's say the first time it happened, wow, that's so interesting, I got to use it in the lecture. The second time it happens, you say, whoa, coincidence, but let me use it. When it happens regularly, you realize this is obviously something you're meant to talk about. I want to share with you something that happened yesterday, just before Mincha of Moshe Shabbat. Just before Arbith, I'm sorry. Somebody in the Great Neck area, very fine man in his 60s, passed away prematurely. He has married sons. Passed away about 5 weeks ago, something like that. His son, one of his sons, came to me. He says, Rabbi, I have to tell you a story. He was married they're of Italian origin, by a rabbi from Italy. He said, this rabbi dreamt of his father 4 times in 1 month. 4 times in 1 month. What rabbi dreams about somebody who passes away, let alone 4 times in 1 month? And he could never remember the dream. The 4th time, he remembered the dream. This young man's father came to him in the dream and said, who married my son? He said, I did. He said, who wrote the ketubah? He said, I did. That was the end of the dream. He calls the son and he says, send me a picture of a ketubah, I want to look at it. The marriage was 1 year ago. The ketubah read that they were married 11 years. He came to Great Neck from Italy and they redid the ketubah. 4 times in 1 month the father came to him till he got it right. And you want to tell me we have doubts as to whether something else is going on? And this happened last night so I could speak about it today. The truth of the matter is, if we don't want to believe it, we can explain it all away. Yes, you're right. It doesn't normally happen that a rabbi dreams about someone who passes away 4 times, and the coincidence of what was in the dream, and the fact that the ketubah was wrong and had to be fixed. You're right. It's all coincidence. We can explain anything as just being natural and coincidence. The greatest miracle was the Kriyat Yam Suf, the splitting of the Red Sea. But there are people who say it was natural. No big deal. No miracle happened. There was a big wind. We know there was a wind, Ruach Qadim, but tell me something, was there a wind ever before that? Was there ever after that? Have we ever heard anywhere that somebody walked on dry land through the Red Sea? If we don't want to see something, we won't see it. But when we look for it, it's there. So people say, but how come we can't see? If I could see the other side, then even the troubles and tribulations of the world wouldn't matter so much, because then there's meaning to it. Then we understand. I just need some proof that there's something going on the other side. What we need in order to see is holiness. I want to tell you the extent to which holiness can enable a person to see beyond this physical world is best illustrated by a story about Rabbeinu the Arizal that I'd like to share with you. It says in Abihem Shel Yisrael ala Torah, an amazing work that they did of all the things that are either connected with or told by Rav Mordechai Eliyahu alav shalom. And the story is that once the Arizal was with his students at the grave of Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And what do the students see? They see their master, the Arizal, get up and start dancing with the shamash. The shamash. This is quite a surprise to them, whose name was Hacham Elazar Azkari. But in addition to dancing with the shamash, they were dancing with another man with a radiant face, looked like a very holy man, and they assumed he must be a very great Hacham. But what they couldn't figure out was why such a big Hacham would honor a shamash and dance with him. When they left Rashbi's grave, when they left the grave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the students of the Arizal asked him, please, can you explain what just happened? He said the third man who was there was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai himself. And he said, if Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai felt it appropriate to dance with the shamash, then you better believe I'm going to dance with him also. And by the way, from that day on, the shamash Hacham Elazar Azkari became very, very important. And he was the author of Sefer HaHaredim and Yedid Nefesh. Now, can we imagine somebody actually seeing and dancing with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Well, that's exactly what happened. And then we'll turn around and say, yeah, but you know what? That's the Arizal. The Arizal. How many people are the Arizal? Very good. But all his students saw it also. Thank you, Mahila. All the students saw it also. So it is definitely doable. The problem is that we block our own vision. We create screens between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu because we don't allow ourselves to be as pure as we want to be. You know, a human being's desires for pleasures of this world, not forbidden ones 100%, but the permitted ones, the foods and other things that we're interested in, that we go running after, these affect the body and soul. And if we do things that are forbidden, then it makes the body tameh, impure. Now, I'm just going to say this very briefly. I'm not going to get any explanations, but the Kabbalists tell us that the yesod, the basis of this desire is mayim, is water. And to nullify it, you need water. And we know the Torah is called water. So, what we have to do is fill our bodies with Torah. But you can't do it if you fill your bodies with all the ma'adanei olam, all the delights of the world. We have to first fill ourselves, satiate ourselves with Torah, and then we are able to fill ourselves with the other things, leave space for it. That's the way I see it. Rabbeinu Hidah speaks about it, but the way I understand it is, if we filled ourselves up, even with things that are permitted, then there's no room for Torah. Our first emphasis has to be the Torah, and that's what creates holiness. It says in Tehillim, "La'asod resonacha Elokai hafasti," to do what you want, your desire, O Lord, is what I want, is what I desire. And as a result, we can say, your Torah goes inside me. So this is a very important thing. If we're going to be running around, putting aside what's forbidden, if we're going to be running around in this world, running after what we think is fun and enjoyment and delicacies, we are blocking the holiness in our own bodies. So if we really desire to understand what's happening in the world, because if we understand what's happening in the world, then the world will be something that makes a lot more sense to us, and we'll be able to handle it a lot better, then we have to sanctify ourselves in any way we can. All right. I'd like to give credit where credit is due. Something that I personally and my family learned from Rabbanit Ruth, alea shalom, is to always, but always, express hakarat hatov, gratitude to another person. And of course, this is a very important Jewish concept, that of Hakarat HaTov. She was an amazingly balanced, as you know, those of you who knew her, and many of you did, a happy person, full of life, optimistic. Now, we might say maybe that's why she was able to thank people, because she was all those things. Could it be that it's the opposite, the other way around? That because she thanked people, she became such a person? One of my daughters, Yali, who's a psychologist, sent me an article which appeared in the Wall Street Journal by a lady called Melinda Beck. It says the following: a growing body of research suggests that maintaining an attitude of gratitude can improve psychological, emotional, and physical well-being. Adults who frequently feel grateful, you ready? Have more energy, more optimism, more social connections, and more happiness than those who do not, according to studies that they have been doing. They're also less likely to get depressed, envious, greedy, or become alcoholics. They earn more money. I'm not making this stuff up. They sleep more soundly. They exercise more regularly and have greater resistance to viral infections. They're healthier. What? People who say thank you have all this going for them because they say thank you? Because they show appreciation for what the other person did? That's what they're finding. Now, researchers are finding that gratitude brings similar benefits in children and adolescents. Kids who feel and act grateful tend to be less materialistic, get better grades, set higher goals, complain of fewer headaches, feel more satisfied with their friends, families. So then those social some years ago, 2003, Dr. Emmons at the University of Miami psychologist Michael McCullough that counting blessings can actually make people feel better. Look at what they did. They took 100 people randomly. They chose 100 random people. Then one of the group, they split them into 3 groups. How do you split 100 into 3? You should take it 99 or something. Whatever it is, they split them into 3 groups. One of the groups was told that they had to list 5 things that they were grateful for the past week and had to do this for 10 consecutive weeks. Every week for 10 weeks they had to say there are 5 things that happened last week that I am grateful for. The second group had to list 5 things that annoyed them that week. Again, for 10 weeks, they had to say every week, these are the 5 things that got me all uptight and upset the last week. And the third group simply listed 5 events that had occurred over the period of 10 weeks. Then they had to answer questionnaires and so on. What did they find? Those who listed blessings each week had fewer health complaints, exercised more regularly, and felt better about their lives in general than the other 2 groups. Focusing on blessings, I'm still reading, can help ward off depression and build resilience in times of stress, grief, or disasters. Now, do you know who they did these studies on? This is according to studies of people impacted by the September 11 terror attacks and Hurricane Katrina. Look at that. Look at the power that we have inside us. We aren't presidents of the United States, even we feel like it sometimes with all the cameras, but we're not. We're nothing. We're not presidents of France or any other country. We can't influence the world and fight terrorism or fight the economy or anything. But we can be masters of our own lives. Whatever comes our way, We have the ability to overcome. Look at this report that they've come out with. Just by having the attitude of gratitude, your life becomes so much better. By the way, they also said that children, in another report, the children who had this attitude were likely to be less materialistic and also had more friends and higher GPAs. It's astonishing. So remember, we're Jews, in case you ever forget that. I know you won't, but we are. So what is our core belief, and what has it always been? Our core belief is the spiritual world, and that is what we have to focus on. And surprisingly, if we do focus on that, it gives us happiness in the physical realm as well, because then we have a better comprehension of what it's all about. Why are we going through what we're going through? What is this all about? It starts making a little more sense. Our lifeline, I love that picture, by the way. Where is it? Right here. Our lifeline is our Holy Torah. It is our belief, it is our emunah, our faith. And in these areas, nobody has control over us except ourselves. I want to tell you a story that was also an Abihem Shel Yisrael ala Torah, about Hacham Ezra Atiyah, alav shalom, who is the head of Porat Yosef, some years ago now. And under him were all the big names of the Sephardim that you know today, Hacham Mordechai Eliyahu, alav shalom, Hacham Obadia Yosef, alav shalom, Hacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul, alav shalom, and so on. He told a story about Hacham Antebi, who was one of the great rabbis who came from Halab. He said a man came to him one day. He said he was a simple man. He was a merchant. He was a shopkeeper, whatever it was. He sold merchandise. And he came to him almost crying. He said people would come to him. He was always very busy. People were always coming to him asking for merchandise. And said, here, take this bale of this, take this bag of that, take this, take that, to the other. Yet come back and pay me. Come back. Not now. No time. No time. Maybe he probably didn't have any help. He was doing everything himself. Come back and pay me. Come back and pay me. He says, and by the end of the day, I couldn't remember who took merchandise. And you know what it's like? People may intend to pay you, but if you don't go after them, sooner or later you're going to be out of pocket very, very badly. And that was what was happening. The problem was he never remembered who he gave credit to. And there were no computers in those days. You scan everything, bling, and it's in the computer. None of that. So he turns to Hacham Antebi. He says, what should I do? I guess writing it down was not an option. None of these things were an option. So Hacham Antebi said to him, and this might come as a surprise to us, as a kind of a question that he would ask. He says, do you pray mincha every day? Mincha? What's mincha got to do with remembering who's borrowed money from you or merchandise from you? You know, I would have thought, ask something like, have you tried mental exercises? Do you go for walks? Do you get enough sleep? They have tonics in the stores that you could take. It's going to help you remember. Get a secretary to write down. No, he says, do you pray mincha every day? The man said, you know, I can't, because it's in the middle of the workday when I'm very, very busy. And what I do is I pray arbith twice. Now, I'm not getting into that. There are halachot about that, but I'm not getting into that. That's not for today. So Hacham Antebi says, I want you to start praying mincha every day. He really didn't want to do that, but he said, okay. Hacham Antebi says, that's what you have to do. That's what he's going to do. So now, the next opportunity, when mincha comes along, he has to stop everything he's doing. I don't know whether he went to synagogue, I don't know whether he went to the storeroom or what he did, but he starts praying mincha. In any case, what happens? He's standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying the Amidah. It's just him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's talking to God, and he's going to tell God that, first of all, he's going to praise God. He's going to tell God how wonderful He is. Then he's going to ask God for everything he needs. After that, he's going to tell God how much he wants to thank Him, because an attitude of gratitude is good. Remember, he's going to tell God how much he wants to thank Him, right? That's what he intends to do. No sooner as he said the words, Hashem sefathai tiftah. Yeah, I don't think he got that far. Then a wondrous miracle occurred. His mind focused on, no, not the prayers. Not about what he was going to say to God. Not his requests or thanking God. He started thinking about Joe, who owed him such and such. He started thinking about Fred, who took X amount of merchandise. He started thinking about Zelda, who promised she'd pay in 3 weeks, and that was 6 weeks ago. The further he got into the Amidah, the more people flashed into his mind. By the time he got to Oseh Shalom, he couldn't take it anymore. He had to quickly run, grab a piece of paper, and start writing down all the names of all the people and what they took and how much they owed him. He was ecstatic. He went running to Acham and Tevi. He says, I can't thank you enough. What a segula you gave me. It was amazing. Of course, this is not the point of the Amidah. What it does demonstrate, however, is the power of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, to make us trip, stumble, and fall whenever we can. Clearly, Acham and Tevi, knowing that this man was an Ama Ares, knew this was going to happen to him. All right? This is not, it's not for you and me. We have to focus on the prayer. But he knew this would occur, so he did actually 2 things. It shows the genius of our Hachamim. He did 2 things. What did he do? First of all, he helped the man to, solve his problem. But more importantly, he got him to pray mincha every day. But anyway, so that is a story, and we have to know that the more we do, the more we take on that is important and taking us in the right direction, the more the Yetzer Hara is going to be standing in our way, and we have to be ready to fight him at every turn. I was debating with myself whether to tell you certain things or not, go into certain things or not, but I think I'm going to go into a few more things with your permission. Okay. We're told that Mashiach can come one of 2 ways. Now, why is it so important for Mashiach to come? Because, I tell you why it's important for Mashiach to come. Because when Mashiach comes, all these trials and tribulations are over. We hope there's not going to be terrible wars, etc. We hope that a lot of the prophecies that are there already happened, a lot of things. But eventually, Olam Shekulo Shabbat, then we can forget about all these trials and tribulations. We want them to come. But they can come in 2 ways. We're told they will come when you have a generation, Shekulo Zakai, that everybody is righteous, doing the right thing. But surprisingly, we're told, it can happen with a door when everybody is hayab. Dor shekulo hayab. That everybody's doing the wrong thing. Everyone's transgressing. Everybody is guilty. How can that possibly be? Well, obviously, it's better for us to do the right thing. We understand that. We understand we have to be good Jews, but how are we going to get Dor shekulo zakai? How are we going to get everybody to do that? So I want to say something a little radical. I don't want this going out of here because it'll be my reputation shot. Okay? I want to say it's probably a lot easier to get Dor Shekulo Hayab. Get everybody doing the wrong thing. Don't you agree with me? Wouldn't that be much easier? And then Mashiach's going to come, and then everything's going to be fantastic. Please don't repeat this outside, okay? I'll be in a lot of trouble. It's just between you and me. All right, but there's a problem. What does it mean? What does it mean, Dor Shekulo Hayab? Does it really mean when everybody's doing the wrong thing, God's going to say, okay, I'm so happy you're all doing the wrong thing. Here, Mashiach Sitkenu. Obviously not. What it means is, we saw it in history many times. Let's look at Purim. The Jews were doing the wrong thing. And what happened? God brought somebody who was going to exterminate every single Jew in every one of the provinces of Ahasuerus. That was as close as we came to Dor Shekolo Hayab. And what happened? We got the fright of our lives. And we had to fast 3 days and nights. Sumu alai. We had to make teshubah. We had to cry to God. We had to become Dor Shekulo Zakai. Mashiach will come when it's Dor Shekulo Zakai. Let's not kid ourselves. What it means is, if we all go down the wrong path, if we all do the wrong thing, then God will say, okay, enough is enough. You're going down, like in Mitzrayim, we're down to the 49th level of Tum'ah, enough is enough. But in order for you to now experience the final redemption, which we're waiting for, you all have to become Zakai. And that is frightening. So what we're seeing here is, on all levels, we have to work harder and harder and harder to improve ourselves as Jews, to become better Jews, to become holier Jews, because that is ultimately the solution to our problems. It is a solution to our problems on a daily basis while we're here, as we are now, with the status quo the way it is, and it is the long-term solution to our problems when we have the pleasure and the zechut of having Mashiach Tzidkenu come to us in this world. You know, we're aware that our actions create angels. Good angels are created by good deeds, bad angels are bad deeds. It's very significant because these angels are the ones that speak on our behalf. Either they say good things about us or they say bad things. I want to tell you what Hidah says to us. He says when a person laid away the fear, when a person does a maswah, when he does a good deed, when we do maswah, sometimes to be a little careless, most of what we have to do, what we have to do. But we want to do it completely, because we get angels. Why? Because when things are not going so well for us, when we're in a dangerous situation, when there's somebody is, God forbid, not well, when other things are happening around us, and we want help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We want these angels who were created by our good deeds to speak well on our behalf before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And hopefully God, you know, for the zechuyot of all the wonderful angels that we've created, He will save us and protect us and do things for us. But He says, if we're not very careful, as we tend to be, when we do a maswah, we tend to be a little bit lax. I'm shaking the lulav and I throw. I don't know, did I do it right now? I'm not sure. Shema Yisrael, did I use the right hand? Did I say it correctly? Did I miss a few words here and there? The Amida, I've been saying by heart for so long, am I skipping words? Am I getting to a bad? You know and I know that we have dangerous human beings not both fully and correctly. So he says, what happens is, if our maswah, if our deed is incomplete, the angel that is created is incomplete. It could be missing, I don't know what. The way we see things could be missing a limb, an ear, or this or that, God forbid. And how do we see this? From Akedat Yitzhak, from the binding of Isaac. Atayadati kire Elokim ata. Who says this? Now I know that you are a God-fearing person. It is the angel. Which angel? The angel that was created from the act of the Akedah. Because they had the Akedah, because they did God's bidding, when they did it willingly, as a result, a good angel was completed, was formed. But this angel was complete. And that's what he means when he says, Atayadati ki yireh Elokim ata, ki lo hasachta et bincha mimeni. Because you didn't keep anything away. You didn't keep your son away from me. And I see that from myself because I am complete. So we see again that our protection comes from us doing what we have to do and doing it as well as we possibly can and as dedicatedly as we possibly can, because the Yetzer Hara will constantly give us thoughts and ideas of maybe being a little lax in our ways. But we don't want to do that, and we don't want to listen to him. The Holy Ben Ish Chai, Hacham Yosef Haim Alav Shalom, tells us a story about a king who was out hunting in the forest. And when the time came to eat lunch, he said to his servant that he didn't wish to eat alone, but the servant should go and find somebody to keep him company. So the servant goes. After all, it's not really befitting the honor of a king to be dining by himself with just the servant. He went throughout the forest, he couldn't see anyone. Finally, he finds a shepherd, a Jewish shepherd who is minding his flock. And the servants told the shepherds that the king had requested his company during the meal. It was a fast day. Wouldn't you know it? The day the king invites you, it's a fast day. Not that he could have eaten the food anyway. So he tells the servant, you know, I'm very sorry, I can't come, I can't do it. So he says, you're going to have to explain that to the king. He says, I'll be happy to do that. So in deference to the king, they went to where the king was, and the king says, please sit and dine with me. And the shepherd says, Your Majesty, I'm so honored, it's such an honor, but you have to understand, I am not able to. I already have a commitment with somebody else. The king was shocked. Somebody more important than me? He said, yes, the Holy One, blessed be He, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he explained further that he's Jewish, and this is a fast day, and God requires the Jewish people fast on this day, and it's a commitment they make. The king said to him, you know, I hear what you're saying. It's very honorable, it's very noble. But it's very hot. Look, I have some cold drinks. You're tired. Why don't you sit today, dine with me, and tomorrow you can fast? The shepherd said, I agree, Your Majesty, on one condition, that you guarantee me that I will live to see tomorrow. The king realized that he spoke wisely and let him go on his way. Why do I tell you this? Part of our problem is that we're very bothered by the world around us and what they think and what they say. And if it's somebody in a position of importance or power, even more so. We must know that our honor in the eyes of the nations of the world is not by following everything they say. On the contrary, it's when they see that we don't turn to the right or the left of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, that they are in awe of us. Just yesterday I was reading, Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu writes, he says that Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom was so humble. And now Mikol Adam, there was no one, never was, never will be someone as humble as Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. So humble. Yet, despite that fact, and despite the fact that that's why God chose him, because God saw that he was so humble, he didn't think of himself, he looked after his sheep. If a sheep ran away, he went to find it. So he says, that's what I need when my own people run astray. Moshe will go and look for them and take care of them. He tells Moshe Rabbeinu that when he goes to speak to Paro, he must be the opposite. He must be the opposite of humble. Speak to him strongly, harshly, powerfully. How can that be? Well, just say Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, his whole strength is his humility. And the answer is yes. That is when we're dealing with normal circumstances and among ourselves. But when dealing with matters concerning our religion with non-Jews, we have to be firm and we have to be definite. That is not a time for humility. All right. I want to share with you something that I spoke about just the other day, but you weren't there. So I would like to take this opportunity to speak to you about it. I did reshuffle my papers, so Give me one small second and I'm with you. Did I say one small second? Can you give me 2 small seconds? Okay. I was so smart, I put it in a different space, different spot, so I wouldn't have to look for it. All right. It says in Sefer Bereshit, in Parashat Lech Lecha to be precise, it says, "Vayomer leAbraham yadoa teda ki rer yeheh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem." And God said to Abraham at the time, Abraham Avinu alav shalom, "Yadoa teda, you shall surely know, ki rer yeheh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem, that your seed will be strangers in a land that is not theirs." And what will happen there? Wa'abadum v'nu'otham. The people there, they're going to be subjected to all kinds of slavery and torture. For how long? 400 shana, for 400 years. And then God adds, but let me tell you something, that also the nation that subjects them to this, I will judge. And afterwards they will come out with a great treasure. There were 2 reasons for the she'abud, the slavery in Mitzrayim, the slavery in Egypt. The first is because of this. These Pesukim we just read, the Gezerah and the Brit Ben Abetharim, this whole discussion with Abraham Avinu that God comes to him and tells him this. That is one reason. There's a second reason which the Zohar HaDash tells us. The Zohar HaDash tells us it's because of the Mechirat Yosef, the sin of the sale of Joseph. Rabbeinu Yehuda writes, he says that the reason for the Galuth in the Brit Ben Abetharim, Kabbalistically speaking, is in order to do what is called the Berur of the Nisusei Chedusha. From the time of Adam HaRishon, from the time of Adam, there were sparks of holiness that got spread all over the earth. And our job as Jews, by doing Mitzvot, by doing the right deeds, by doing the right action, is by even just walking up and down on the street, we are collecting the sparks of holiness that are there. So, the first thing that Abraham Avinu was told that we had to be slaves there for 400 years is on account of that, to separate the sparks of holiness, which incidentally, Hacham Yosef Haim alav shalom, the Ben Ish Hai says, are actually angels. In any case, this, according to the Mekubalim, because we know everything in the Torah is on 2 levels. There's the Pshat, the simple level, and there's the spiritual, the Kabbalistic level. So the simple level is, afterwards we came out with this amazing treasure. Treasure from Egypt and treasure at the Yam Suf, at the sea. But Kabbalistically, we're told the Rechush Gadol, this great treasure, was this treasure of Nisusei Chedusha, the treasure of the sparks of holiness. The reason Yitzhak Abinu, I think you're aware, gave up the letter, originally his name, Yitzhak, was spelt with the letter Sin. And he gave it up and replaced it with a Sad. And the reason was that the Gezerat Ben Abetharim here that we just read says we have to be 400 years in Egypt, correct? How many years? 400 years. Now, he gives up the Sheen from his name. The Sheen, or the Sin, in Gematria is 300. He takes the Sad instead. Yitzhak is spelled with the Sad. That is 90. You take 90 from 300, you're left with 210. Okay, I'm not a math major. I'm glad you all are. Thank you for helping me with that. So the idea is that by giving up 210 years from his name, the slavery in Egypt would be reduced by 210 years. So, we were supposed to be there 400 years. You're going to tell me, Rabbi, you're making a mistake. We were there 400, you're supposed to be there 400 years, but because of Yitzhak Abinu, we took off 210 years. How many years are left? I'm not a math major, tell me. 190. 180. 190.
I'm sorry, from 280?
210 from 400. Thank you. Thank you. 190. You're all right. But you're going to turn around and say, Rabbi, I hate to embarrass you in public, but we were there 210 years, not 190. Okay. Rabbeinu Yehuda tells us, that the Zohar Hadash tells us that we had two problems. One was this Gezerat Ben Abetharim, and the other was Mechirat Yosef HaSadiq alav shalom, the sale of Yosef. And we were obligated to be punished 210 years for the sale of Yosef HaSadiq. Now God said, you have a choice. He didn't say you have a choice. I'm putting it that way. God is merciful. But he could have said, you have a choice. I'll give you your 190 years. You're complaining that I've added 20 years onto that? You got 210, you only want 190? I'll give you 190. Because it was 400, this Hakabin who gave up 210 years, so it's only 190. I'll give you 190. And I will give you separately 210 years for the sale of Yosef HaSadiq. You're going to be stuck for 400 years. What did God say? God said, I'm merciful. You're going to serve concurrently. So even though the 190 was up, we still had the other 20 to go for the sale of Yosef HaSadiq. So that came to 210 years. And that's why we were there for 210 years. So, in what merit, where was the strength to come from that we were able to come out of Egypt after 210 years? In Parashat Vayera, it says, "Lachen emor lebnei Yisrael, ani Hashem, v'hoseti etchem mitachat sebrot Mitzrayim, v'hisalti etchem ma'avodatam, v'ra'alti etchem b'zoar netuya b'shvatim gedolim, v'lachachti etchem li le'am." Translated, it means, God said to the children of Israel, and I took you out from under the suffering of Egypt. I saved you from the work. I redeemed you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments, and I took you to be my people. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu asked a question on this. Aren't they four ways of saying exactly the same thing? We talk about them, the leshonot, the four of Geulah. I took you out and I saved and I redeemed you and I took you. If I had to take a minute, words, that's not Torah going on. So the Rebbe says, no, each one refers to a different aspect. Is referring to the Sebrot Mitzrayim, the suffering that we had in Egypt. Because it says, I removed you, I took you out from under the suffering of Mitzrayim. And then the second one, I saved you from the hard work. So that's the second thing. The first one was because of the suffering. The second was because of the hard work. Now we would think, but that should be enough. We don't need the other two. We don't need the other two. We got it. These are the two things we were suffering with. The suffering that they were punishing us so much, and the hard work. So why do we need the other two? He says, you forgot about the Berith Ben Abetharim. You forgot about what God said to Abraham Avinu. You should surely know that your people will be a stranger in a land that's not theirs. And all these terrible things are going to happen there. But then he says, but these people who are going to oppress them, I will judge. And then he adds, and I will take them, and then they will have this great treasure. Okay, what's happening here is God has promised to punish the people and take their treasure. He's promised to punish the ones who oppressed us. Now, how is this going to happen? Could it happen that the Jewish people would leave, Bnei Yisrael would leave like slaves who are running away, escaping from the master in the middle of the night, so nobody would know that they're doing this? God said, no. I'm going to do it with everybody knowing, every Egyptian and the whole world knowing that I am taking them out. I'm going to take them out with an outstretched hand and with amazing judgments, openly and powerfully for all to see. But not just that, the children of Israel also, by seeing this, would believe, would feel a closeness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, would feel a connection. And that's why it says, "Ve'laqahti etchem," and I took you, li le'am, to be my people. Va'iti lachem le'elokim, and I will be for you your God. There's a story in the Gemara of Sotah about an elderly widow. You'll know the story. She, I guess she lived in Main Street over here in Kew Garden Hills. It's in the Gemara of Sotah. And she went to synagogue, she went to Tiferet Shalom. You know what I'm talking about, Shlomo, right? And Rabbi Yochanan said to her, there isn't something closer? Main Street's got 1 million synagogues. You have to come all the way here? She says, yes, I wouldn't get Sachar Pesiot. I wouldn't get reward for the steps I take. So we're told, on a Kabbalistic level, the Sachar that she was getting was the Nisusei Chedusha, the sparks of holiness when she was doing the Maswa, when she was walking from her house in Main Street to Forest Hills. This is she was collecting, separating the berur of the Nisusei Chedusha, the sparks of holiness. There's this parable in Ben Ishmael, which I would like to share with you. And after we've done with that and we've spoken about it, I'm going to end for tonight. About a man from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Okay? And he was having a hard time, you know, financially things became hard, things are difficult. But he heard over there, you're having a hard time here providing for your wife and family, putting food on the table and so on and so forth. He said, you know what I'm going to do? People are telling me there are big job opportunities in the Big Apple. Go to Manhattan and everything's going to be just great. He says, I'm going to do that. You know, people do that. They go there, they work for 6 months, they save, and then they go back home. I mean, people come from Colombia and do that also. But, so he says, that's what I'm going to do. So he comes to Manhattan, he gets a job, and it's all cash, and he's saving the money, saving the money, saving the money. And after 6 months, he figures he has enough money, he's going to go, and he's going to go back to his wife and family, and they're going to be so happy, even though she was a little upset with him that he left in the first place. But nevertheless, now she sees the money and they're more comfortable, they're going to be happy. He steps out, the boss gives him at night, he gives him his big bag full of money, he steps out in the street in Manhattan, wouldn't you know, he gets mugged. There's a mugger there with a big gun and says, give me your money. He says, no, please, you can't do that, you don't know what you... He says, just give it to me, be quiet. So he hands it over. And he says to the mugger, though, listen, please, I have to ask you a big favor. I'm going to be in a lot of trouble with my wife. Now, the mugger knows what it's like to have trouble with his wife, so he says, why, what's the problem? So he tells him what happened. He says, look, just do me one favor. Take the money, but just shoot a few bullets into my coat so I can tell my wife, look what happened to my coat. You're lucky to see me alive. Forget about the money. So the mugger felt a little bit of compassion. He said, okay, how do you want to do it? He says, here. He took the coat off, hung it on a lamppost. He says, shoot some bullets into it. So the mugger goes bang, 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 bang. I don't know how many bangs. He shoots bullets in the coat. The guy looks at him, he says, do me a favor, make it look more realistic, just a few more. So the mugger goes bang, click, click, click. He says, I'm out of bullets. He says, you're out of bullets? Great. And he jumps up and pounces him and beats him, takes his money and runs. You wonder why I tell stories not connected with anything, aren't you? Yeah, be honest. When we were in Egypt, the strength of the Egyptians was the Nisusei Chedusha, the sparks of holiness that were in Egypt. Our hard work was constantly removing the sparks of of holiness from Egypt, and we were collecting them. The Jewish people were collecting them. Every time they made us work harder, they flogged us, they made us do more labor. We were collecting sparks of holiness from Egypt, till finally there were no sparks left. We had taken them all. At that point, we could jump on the Egyptians. God could do, of course, God could do it anytime, but that's when it happened. We were strong enough as a people that we could bang them, take our money, and run. That's exactly what happened. We took our sparks of holiness, plus physically we took a lot of money, and we ran. We're waiting for the final Geulah, like I said, that final Geulah, that final redemption. We're told, Aharit Kereshit. The last one will be like the first one. It's going to happen the same way. Hacham Yosef Chaim Alav Shalom, the Ben Ish Hai says, we will even have to travel through the desert at the time of the final redemption. What we have to do is very simple. Collect the sparks of holiness wherever we are. Wherever we are, do what's right. If we do everything the right way, if we do whatever the Torah tells us, from Hakarat HaTov, being nice to people, showing our recognition for what they do, which makes us feel better, from doing the Muswat correctly, 100%, so that the angels that we create who speak well of us are complete and whole and can speak perfectly on our behalf, to bringing Mashiach Tzidkenu, who is going to come and save us from all the sorrow and the pain. It's all in our hands. It requires the Jewish people to follow the path of Torah, do what's good, and for that zechut, I pray that we'll soon witness the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, et kam b'mnei b'yameinu, v'chen yiratzon v'nomar. Amen. Amen. God bless you all.
Chazaq to Rabbi Menashe. Let's give another round of applause to Rabbi Menashe, please. Rabbi, by the round of applause, I see how amazing the lecture was. Chazaq Baruch, thank you very much. Bezat Hashem, we hope to have the Rav come more often to the community. Bezat Hashem, whoever is interested in co-sponsoring future events, please come and see us. We'll be more than happy to put it together. Chazaq Baruch, we're going to have our Rit right now, Meyer for the men. Whoever could stick